Arsenal 2, Chelsea 1. It is a massive sigh of relief for Arsenal fans for now. But the fact of the matter is, the title race is very much on. Man City just 5 points behind Arsenal with a game in hand, and the two teams will meet in mid-April. We're in the final third of the Premier League season, and it is going to be a sprint to the finish for Arsenal and Man City. But the story of the weekend, Arsenal with a massive win over Chelsea. It's a hugely important 3 points, puts them 5 points clear at the top of the table in one of the tightest title races they've had to endure in the last 5 years. We're going to be recapping the 2-1 win over Chelsea, and we're also going to be talking about the current state of the Premier League title race. This is the American Gooner. Well, if you wanted a true Premier League title race, you've got one. 5 points separate Arsenal and Man City. Both teams are in control of their own destiny, Man City having the extra game in hand. So really, the difference between these two teams is 2 points. The advantage still with Arsenal, though, when both teams are level on matches played. They hold the 2-point advantage, and the two teams still have to play against each other in mid-April, which, hypothetically speaking, if things stay the way they are up until that match, Arsenal in the driver's seat going into the Etihad, they would theoretically only need to pick up a point there to maintain their 2-point advantage or more at that point in the title race. So the advantage is still very much with Arsenal, but things are starting to tighten up in a big way. And I think at this point in the season, both mentally and physically, I would say the title race has never been more on than right now. And it's not going to be easy for Arsenal to go and win this title. We're at the stage of the season now where every point, every goal, every match, they're going to have to earn it. And that's the way it should be. With Man City closing the gap to 2 points, with the season picking up the way it is, you're going to have Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Champions League, Premier League, all in full swing. This is a title that's going to have to be earned, not given. From this point on, they're going to have to earn everything. And if they don't, it could cost them the title. They earned those 3 points against Chelsea, though. Regardless of how you think the performance looked, it really doesn't matter at this stage of the season. 3 points is 3 points. It's 3 points closer to the title for Arsenal. It's 1 game closer to the title for Arsenal. And it's a big statement, not a statement based on their performance, but a statement based on the fact that they were able to collect the 3 points and move just a little bit closer to the title. To me, the performance of Arsenal and the performance of City for the remainder of this Premier League title race should not matter, and it should not be talked about so long as both teams are collecting 3 points. It's March now. We have less than 2 months to go in the season. To argue about which side looks better and who seems to be in better form at this stage of the season, when 2 points separates them in the title race, is irrelevant. Those talks of who seems to be in better form and what can we learn about the outlook of a team's season from their performance, those belong to the early season. Arsenal started the season off with some very tough fixtures, and form was a big question. The win at Old Trafford wasn't convincing enough for some fans. The loss at Anfield wasn't convincing enough for some fans. The home draw to City wasn't convincing enough for some fans. If yesterday's match against Chelsea was played in September, we'd all be saying, that's not good enough. That was not a convincing enough victory for Arsenal. And we would have doubts about their ability, fast forward to this point of the season, to get over the line and contend for a title. But with 9 matches left and your closest title challengers nipping at your heels, you will take 3 points however you can get them. Was it pretty? Was it textbook? Was it exactly how Arsenal drew that one up? Absolutely not. But to say that that wasn't a convincing victory is a moot point, because it's 3 points in the final third of the Premier League season that brings them 3 points closer to the title. I don't know what's more convincing than a team collecting 3 points in a situation like that. And I know that complaining about the City-Arsenal double standard is just annoying at this point, but it is frustrating from an Arsenal fan perspective that City on Saturday played a very similar game to how we played Chelsea yesterday. They were not convincing. They spent the majority of the second half defending. Leeds put pressure on City that they were not equipped to deal with. But Donnarumma made some fantastic saves and they get their 3 points. It was a very similar experience for Arsenal yesterday against Chelsea. We spent the majority of the second half defending. Chelsea, with 10 men, were putting pressure on us that we didn't seem ready to deal with. That being said, David Raya bails us out. He makes some incredible saves and we get the 3 points. 2 very similar performances from the 2 clubs that are leading the title race in the Premier League. Yet, 2 very different narratives. With City, somehow, the Goliath is emerging once again. They're finding their form, they're winning games, they're catching up to Arsenal, they're putting this pressure on Arsenal that they're not going to be able to deal with. City look inevitable in this title race. Yet with Arsenal, it's shaky, it's nervy. The bottlers are coming back once again. You can see it starting to unfold for this team. Arteta has lost control of what's going on the pitch. The players don't have the mental fortitude to get over the line. It's as if City's 3 points hold more weight than Arsenal's. As if we aren't still ahead in the title race. As if looking at the Premier League season through a widened scope, Arsenal have not been the far better team than Man City. If you want to bring up which team looks more convincing than the other, look at their common opponents. City dropped points to Spurs after being 2-0 up at halftime, whereas Arsenal smashed Tottenham 4-1 in both fixtures. City lost to Newcastle, where Arsenal almost dropped points to Newcastle, but stole a victory in the 98th minute. City dropped points in 3 straight matches to start the new year against Sunderland, Chelsea, and Brighton. 3 clubs that Arsenal have now beaten in the Premier League this season. The point is that talks of form at this stage of the season should be thrown out the window. If you're an Arsenal fan, the 6 points that we've collected in the last 2 fixtures were probably the toughest to this point of the season that the team was going to have to go out and collect. Spurs on the road, followed by Chelsea at home. To walk away with all 6 points and to leave those 2 fixtures in the rearview mirror, that's a bigger moral victory than anybody could imagine. It's not going to be an easier road ahead. Every single match, they're going to have to earn their 3 points. But Spurs and Chelsea are out of the way, and we're 6 points better because of it. It's going to be a nervy finish, but we got this. Now, the big question on everyone's minds, can Arsenal finally get over the line and win the Premier League title, or has the bottled job already started? My answer would be not yet. Dropping points in really tough midweek fixtures to Brentford and Wolves does not mean that the bottle job has started. If anything, what it means is that you were able to salvage a point out of matches where you weren't at your best. You were playing an opponent that had really nothing to lose and were throwing a lot at you, yet you were still able to walk away with that 1 point. I think dropped points in fixtures like that at this stage of the season will always draw comparisons to the dropped points in similar fixtures in the years past where we have bottled the title. I don't, however, think those 2 fixtures are indicative of Arsenal letting the title slip away. You have to remember that in years past, Arsenal have dropped points in several more fixtures at this point of the season, earlier in the season, and even later in the season. In those years, we still finished within a few points of the title. Timing is everything, and dropping points in back-to-back midweek fixtures like that gives off the impression that this Arsenal team is volatile and they're on the verge of bottling yet another Premier League lead, but I don't think that's the reality. Arteta put it best in a recent interview when he said that the Premier League season is a season of what-ifs, and he referenced that match at St. James's Park where we were down 1-0, managed to draw level, and then find the 98th minute winner. But he said, had we not, we could have potentially been 8 points behind Liverpool at that point of the season. Look at where they are now versus where we are now. So the what-ifs are great to talk about, and they fill the dead space quite nicely, but the only thing that matters is reality. The reality is it was back-to-back midweek draws against tough opponents. You can choose to say that it's dropped points, or you can choose to say that it's a point gained. Regardless, it doesn't mean that Arsenal are bottling the title yet. And that's something that I don't think they can afford to do. If you're an Arsenal fan, I think you would much rather a Premier League title than any other trophy this season, and that includes the Champions League. Especially considering they've ended up on that favorable side of the Champions League draw, it just puts so much more pressure on the Premier League title race. If the stars align, Arsenal should be competing in 3 finals this year. They're in the League Cup final already against City. They have a favorable FA Cup draw that will get them one step closer to that FA Cup final. And they're on the favorable side of the Champions League draw, which means they could pretty much walk to the final. You'd have to assume they're going to win at least one of those. Winning the league, however, will mean much more to this group and this fan base and the future of this Arsenal team than winning the Champions League or winning the FA Cup or winning the League Cup or winning all 3. They can't let the league slip away. For as likely as a trophy seems this season for Arsenal, there's none more important than the Premier League. And I think if you're an Arsenal fan, you would sacrifice the other 3 if it meant holding on to this lead in the Premier League and winning the title. Now, I obviously don't want to be met with that trade-off as a reality, and I'm optimistic that multiple trophies are likely for this Arsenal team this season, but I think it speaks to the importance of winning the league, that you would throw your chances at the other 3 away entirely if it meant you could hold on and win the Premier League this season. They are 9 matches away and just 2 points clear, but they can do it. As for how those remaining league fixtures will go for both Arsenal and City, here are my predictions. For Arsenal, I think they will beat Brighton. It's a team that has taken points off of us in the past, but I think riding high after back-to-back wins over Spurs and Chelsea will get the win. I think we will beat Everton. I think we will beat Bournemouth at home, especially now that Semenyo is no longer on their team. I think we will get the win there. Then we go to the Etihad, where if we match what City does, win the 3 Premier League fixtures leading up to that away day at City, we will be in control of our own destiny at that point. I think we will draw at the Etihad with Man City. I don't think either team is going to risk the 6-point swing. I think it's going to be a very cautious game. City's going to have more to play for because at one point or another, they're going to have to take points off of Arsenal, whether it be us dropping points against other clubs or them beating us. I think both teams are going to play that match very cautiously, and I think they are going to allow the title to be decided outside of that head-to-head matchup. Then I think we'll beat Newcastle, we'll beat Fulham, we'll beat West Ham, we'll beat Burnley, and I think we will draw with Crystal Palace. I think they will have the Premier League title locked up by the time they have to face Crystal Palace. You're also going to have FA Cup final and Champions League matches right around that Crystal Palace match. So I wouldn't be shocked to see some heavy rotation and dropped points. That comes out to 23 points from their remaining fixtures, finishing the season with 87. As for Man City, I think they'll beat Nottingham Forest. I think they'll beat West Ham. I think they'll beat Chelsea. Like I mentioned, a draw with Arsenal at home. I think they'll beat Burnley. I think they'll draw with Everton. I think they'll beat Brentford. I think they'll beat Bournemouth. I think they'll beat Villa. And I think they'll beat Palace. That's 26 points from their remaining fixtures, ending their season with 85. It's going to be so tight to the end, and I do think that both City and Arsenal are going to be at their very best. The difference for me in the title race is the 4-game stretch that City has to play against Everton, Brentford, Bournemouth, and Villa. I don't see them taking 12 points from that stretch. If it's not Everton like I'm predicting, it'll be Brentford, it'll be Bournemouth, it'll be Villa. Whether it's a loss or a draw, I just don't think they're going to win all 4 of those games. And as long as Arsenal don't lose, especially not to City at the Etihad, that should be able to open the door for them to win the title. The question for Arsenal will be, does the fear of losing outweigh the hunger to win? If it does, they could easily drop more points and allow City to win the title. I mentioned earlier that they're going to have to earn every single point the rest of the way. And the way that they do that is by wanting to win more than they're afraid of losing. They have to play on the front foot. They have to take their chances. They have to apply pressure to their opponents. They can't sit back. They can't be afraid to make mistakes because that's where they've dropped points all season long. If the league is there for the taking, are they going to be able to take it? You can't rely on City dropping more points because it's possible they don't. Arsenal are in control of their own destiny right now in the league. The question's going to be, do they want to win more than they're afraid to lose? Still, I think the title's going to be decided in that 4-game stretch for City. And we have to keep an eye on goal differential. With things as tight as they are, it could very well come down to the last day of the season. If for some reason Arsenal and City end up level on points, a lot of those clean sheets that we kept earlier in the year might prove decisive when it comes to the Premier League title. And I'll leave you all with that. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the American Gooner. We will have a midweek match recap for you Wednesday afternoon when Arsenal take on Brighton, and fingers crossed that things continue to go the way of the Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners.